Okay, yesterday we were learning about Middot, the way a person should conduct himself in behavior. We said normally you should be a middle of the road guy, not to be an extremist, except two things that you have to be an extremist: haughtiness and anger. Okay? So he says that haughtiness, to the ultimate extent of a lack of haughtiness the person should have, but as we're learning in Basi Lagani, not fake humility, because fake humility causes you to go off the derech. And anger is also something which is very interesting, that you have to be an extremist about. It says even when a person needs to show anger to his family, he should only fake it, but they should see that really he's not really angry. B'chlal, the Gemara says, when a person is angry, it's a Mishnah, don't appease somebody in the time they're angry. When a person's angry, it's like drunk. You lose control over yourself. So if you talk to somebody who's angry, all you're doing is feeding the anger. It makes it worse. So therefore, the best thing it says, just don't say anything. But b'chlal, in fact, what?
If it's somebody who's always angry, you don't talk to them. That's serious.
Why would you want to talk to somebody who's always angry? But he said, in fact, Eliyahu Navi said to Rav Yehuda, don't get angry and you won't come to sin. Because when you're angry, first of all, besides the fact that it's considered Avodah Zarah. And the Gemara, Chazal tell us that whoever gets angry is like worshipping idols, and all Gehenna is open for him, and all the terrible things happen to the person. So therefore, what should a person do? As it says, Shemer Chepasim Ve'enim Meshivim. If somebody is embarrassed, insulting you, just listen to it, ignore it, accept it. And the Gemara says, whoever does that, you get forgiven for all your sins. Because you're able to hold yourself back so much. What
about this? It says, maybe this is a bad question.
1 second. The Yargis Adam Yetzer Teva Yetzer Hara is a personal, not verbal fight. You get angry at your own Yetzer Hara, but not screaming and angry at somebody or something.
Does it mean bitter or angry?
It means anger. But again, you're supposed to get angry at the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Tov should get angry at the Yetzer Hara and basically not listen to it. That's what it means. Okay.
It says you should call it names.
What? Yeah, but that's between you. You don't go in front of a mirror and talk in the mirror those names. It means internal. Internal, huh? The mirror will answer you. You might crack the mirror, by the way. That's probably a bigger problem. Okay, and that's the next thing it says over here. A person should always do a lot of shtika, of being silent. The person, it's a very, very interesting thing. The Gemara says, "Mila besela shtika betrei." If one word costs $1, silence is $2. So people answer that, yeah, but silence is only once. Every time you talk, you get $1. So if you say 10 words, you get $10. But if you're silent, you're only silent once. You're only going to get $2. But nevertheless, the best thing is shtika, meaning person should only talk Torah, things necessity of life, and even like it says, Kol hamarbe b'dvarim mevichet. The more you talk, you come to sin. And the source of that, by the way, is the original sin of Adam and Chava. Chava talked too much. She added on to what Hashem told her. She talked too much, and because of that, Adam and Rishon sinned. In fact, when the Mishnah says, Kol hamarbe b'dvarim mevichet, the Mefarshim say, what's the source of that? From the case of Adam and Chava. What?
I heard from at least 2 people that when they get angry, they actually perform back. That's when they get to, that's when they...
We're not, what anger are you talking about? Passion or anger?
Call it anger.
No, it's passion, not anger.
Both of those people are very angry people.
Then there's Avodah Zarah. You function better when you're passionate about something. Passionate about something doesn't mean you're angry. Anger, you lose control over yourself. Passion, you have control over yourself, but you're very passionate about
The
it.
person gets passionate and looks very angry and they're dominant.
See, that doesn't mean anger.
And they're not losing control. That doesn't mean they're
When
lying.
a person is control over themselves, they're not anger. Anger is when you lose control over yourself. Like when is a person drunk? When he loses control over himself.
Some people get more control when they're high.
No. It's temporary, unrealistic. It's not. It's temporary and it's not real. It doesn't last. It doesn't last. That's why they have to keep doing it. No. If it would last, why do they have to keep doing it for?
I heard from a brain surgeon that he does marijuana before he does surgery because it helps him with focus. I've never used it.
Don't go to that
Don't
brain
go to
surgeon.
that
Don't
brain
go to
surgeon.
I wouldn't go to that brain surgery. Correct.
When you say horniness,
High,
What?
when you say horniness, what do you exactly mean?
Holiness?
Hari.
Haughtiness, gaiva.
Yeah.
The way Chassidus explains gaiva is it's a very interesting thing. I mentioned many times. When I was a bacher, there was an article in the Jewish press. You ever hear the Jewish press? Okay. So you're talking about, it's probably 45 years ago. There's an article in the Jewish press, questions to the editor, letters to the editor. He wrote a whole Megillah, is God haughty? Is God haughty? Why? God is always in Torah. I am God your God. You have to listen to me. I did this. I did. I am God your God. I took out of Egypt. I am my slave. Isn't that haughtiness? Which, from a non-Chassidic perspective, it does make sense as a question. From a realistic point of view, and definitely from a Chassidic point of view, it's shtusim. It's mamish foolish. Because if a father tells a kid, or what they used to at least, today it doesn't work. Father tells a kid, you have to listen to me because I'm your father. That's not ego. If a boss says to a worker, I'm the boss, you're the worker, you have to do it the way I want, not the way you want. That's not ego. That's a realistic fact. I'm the boss, you're the worker, I'm the parent, you're the child. That's a fact. And therefore you have to listen to me, and it's not haughtiness by me saying, I'm your father. Okay? Not only that, if you look in Chumash, when Moshe Rabbeinu said, the Torah testifies about Moshe Rabbeinu. Well, Moshe anav mi'ed Parshas Balaischa. Moshe anav ma'ed mikol ha'adam asher pnei Adam. Moshe was the most humble person that ever lived on the face of the earth. Right? That's what the Torah emes. Torah's emes. So now, if somebody asks Moshe Rabbeinu, who was the greatest prophet amongst the Jewish people that ever lived? What would Moshe Rabbeinu say? Me, because that's what it says in Chumash. Torah says there was never a prophet amongst the Jews as great as Moshe Rabbeinu. If Moshe Rabbeinu would say somebody else, he'd be a liar. It would be a sin. Torah says Moshe Rabbeinu. If somebody asks Moshe Rabbeinu, who did God speak to on a regular basis? What Moshe Rabbeinu should say somebody else because of humility? Who got the Torah on Har Sinai? Moshe Kibbutz Torah on Sinai. Moshe got the Torah on Har Sinai. If Moshe would say, not me, that's fake. That's fake humility. It's a lie, Pasha. It's not true. If somebody asks somebody, do you keep kosher? And they do. That's haughtiness. It's a fact. I keep kosher. I keep Shabbos. It's not gaiva. What was Moshe Rabbeinu's humility? And therefore we'll understand what the opposite is. Moshe Rabbeinu knew exactly who he was. He knew his greatness. He knew he received the Torah. He knew Hashem spoke to him. He knew he was the greatest Navi that ever existed. He knew that. But Moshe Rabbeinu maintained that if somebody else would be given the same talents and brain and holiness and everything I would have, they would even be better. Or, in the simple English, Moshe Rabbeinu understood who he was, but he realized he really should be better. And that's what humility is. Humility means I know exactly who I am, like we learned in the Maimer. Fake humility caused the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, the Gemara says. Right? One second. So if a person says, I know exactly who I am, I know my greatness, I know my talents, I know what I can accomplish, but Really, I should be doing much, much more than I'm doing, and therefore I don't walk around thinking I'm God's gift to the world. A person who thinks, and this is the definition of haughtiness, by the way, a person who thinks that I am the best possible thing that I could do and I can't be better, and that's it. That's haughtiness that the Gemara says you have to eradicate, you have to destroy it, you have to get rid of it. But for a person to know what he is, who he is, that's just like it says in Chassidus, the expression, just like a person needs to know their faults, to know what to fix, it's equally obligated, it says equally obligated for a person to know their greatness. Why? Because if you have a talent and you don't use it, you're wasting. If somebody's an artist or musician and they don't use it, they don't do it, they're wasting a talent that Hashem gave them. And they're mamish wasting, they're destroying their life. So haughtiness means when I think that I am great and I can't be better. That's the definition of haughtiness.
Whose definition is this?
Not mine.
No, I know.
All over Chassidus.
So who is Machadish this? The Magid? I just want to know before...
Moshe Rabbeinu at Har Sinai.
No, before this explanation came along,
What?
what was the definition of being humble?
The Friedrich Rebbe brings down in the Sichos, it's not in the Sichos, it's in the long letter that was borrowed without permission, and they printed it, and finally the Rebbe let him print it, and then they wanted to get the rest of it, and the Rebbe said, no, it's enough. There's a long letter the Friedrich Rebbe wrote to his daughter, Rebbe Chaim Mushka, by the way. One of the people that became Talmidim of the Baal Shem Tov was reminiscing his pre-Baal Shem Tov life. And he remembered the way all the great people were very haughty. You know, the scholars were extremely haughty. They used to say, well, Rambam says this, but I say, and it's just as good as Rambam. I mean, something like that. So he came to a shul once. It's a Chassidic guy. A Chassidic guy once came to a shul. It was Parshas Baalei Yisrael. And that parsha says the pasuk Meisha Anav made by Shishi. It says Meisha was the most humble person that ever lived. So the guy went over to the Gabbai, Chassidic guy went over to the Gabbai of the shul, and he whispered something in his ear. And the Gabbai smiled and he says, "Okay." When he came to that Aliyah, the Gabbai said, "Yameid, the most humble person in shul." That's what the Gabbai said. Yameid, the most humble person in shul. So right away, the rabbi got up to go. A bunch of other people got up to go, because each one of them is the most humble. So they started a whole fight in the shul. Finally, I don't know if the Rav won or somebody else won. They won the most humble award. Then he gets the Aliyah. And he says, the pasuk, he's reading the Torah. Moshe was the most humble person that lived on the face of the earth. So he said, 1 minute. Moshe Rabbeinu was well known. I'm not well known. I'm more humble than Moshe Rabbeinu was. Everybody knows about Moshe Rabbeinu. I'm more humble than Moshe Rabbeinu. So it would bother him a whole day. Finally he came to the answer. What was the answer? The pasuk says Moshe was the most humble person al pnei ha'adama, on the earth. I'm the most humble in heaven and earth. That is not exactly modesty. Got it? That's okay, let's go.